Thank you for Patreon now for donating to the Patreon.
Hey guys, it's Vandiazzo back in another Card 5 Vanguard deck profiles. Because enjoyed, don't like, subscribe, and donate Patreon. Let's go start, shall we? Today we have Phantom Blaster Overlord / Dragon from set 5, the set we're all hyped for. Unfortunately, I didn't get to it first. I'm not gonna say who got to it first because I don't think I'm allowed to say it. If I am, then I will say it, but like, I don't have quality, but I have speed, and I got beaten out in speed today, but it's fine, because honestly, I enjoyed set 5 a lot more than I thought I would, and it's amazing, so let's go ahead and get it started, shall we? First up, we have our starter in Full Bow. Grade 0, boost, 5k shield, 6k base. All items voted upon if you win second, draw a card. Here's my thing. We all know I don't care for the skills that everyone has, but what I do care for is if your quality is good. I like the dog jumping. I like how the background looks, and I especially love the moon. 10 out of 10 in my books. Definitely not because there's a moon in it. Either way, Full Bow's a nice starter. I like the dog. I do genuinely like the moon, and I just like the background in general. Regardless, I don't think this thing has common art. That's the thing. Some of the cards I don't believe have a common rarity based on how they look, but they do. Either way, Full Bow's our starter. Then we have our Overtrigger and Light Dragon Deity of Honor's Amartinoa. Grade 0, boost, 50k shield, 5k power. Overtrigger, now one Overtrigger, if a trigger, move that card, draw a card, choose one of your gets plus +1 for the turn. And if you reveal it during draft check, activate additional effect, which is until end of turn, you can perform draft checks with the battle of your rear guards. Yeah, this one's not necessarily the strongest depending on what deck you're using. I think Obari would have been better in previous PBOs and PBDs. I think now the PBOs that you actually want Amartinoa just because you have a way to call Blaster Dark out during the battle phase, so you can get multi-attack and possible more draft checks. That's my opinion on it. I think that's why you should run Amartinoa. You don't have to, but I prefer to because the quad drive is very generous, and if you happen to have another column that may or may not have a grade 3 and that's 6 tuple drive, so that's worth it. So Amartinoa, nice Overtrigger, run Obari if you want to, but I prefer this one. Then we have 3 crits in Blade Feather Dragon. Grade 0, boost, 15k shield, 4k base. Critical trigger, auto rear at the end of the battle that it boosted, shove it to soul, choose one of your +2 for the turn. You don't run it for that skill, you run it because it's a crit. Now, you're all going to be questioning, why I run 3 crits? Now, I'm making it clear, I always run Rainbow. Or most of the time I will run Rainbow. Indeed, there is a reason behind it. I will not fully explain it in this one, but I have actually explained it in other videos, so go find those, and then when I have the time and when I care to, that's when I'll fully explain it. But as for now, Blade Feathers at 3, I'll explain when I'm done with the rest of the trigger lineup. Protection Magic Prorobi. Grade 0, boost, 5k shield, 4k base, draw trigger, choose guard circle. If your vanguards are grade 3, your opponent's vanguards are grade 3, it gets +5k shield, so 10k shield, draw trigger, which is nice, at 4. And then 4 copies of Bard of Heavenly Song Alpacc, grade 0, boost, 15k shield, 4k base, front trigger, choose guard circle. If your opponent's vanguards are grade 3, it gets +5k shield, so 20k shield front, which is good. And then the thing that all of you are going to just spam in the comments of why am I doing this, 4 copies of Healer of Heavenly Staff Arshes. I don't... Now, before everyone starts just pausing the video and says you're dumb, run new heals, I'm going to stop you right there. We all know the reasons why I don't run Heal Guardians in V. And if you don't know, go to the V deck profiles and find one of the ones that I explained the reason why I don't like Heal Guards, and then come back here and you will more or less have your answer. The counter heals, I'm not saying they're not good, but they are very situational to where if you're not playing against the right decks, they are effectively useless. They are 5k less shield than the actual 15k heals, and if you are playing against the decks that don't apply to those heals, you are essentially losing out on a grand total of 10k shield. I mean 20k shield if you add them up together, which is not a shield value I want to lose. And I'm not about to run half and half because I hate doing that. I hate it with my living soul. And the one time I did it wasn't for a deck for me, it was a deck for a friend. So not going to happen. I don't like those heals. I mean, I admit they're good, they help in the situations that they need to, but I don't like them. I'm not going to run a card I don't like unless it's really needed for the deck to function. But does the deck need the heals to function? No, it doesn't. So they don't deserve a place in my deck. If you want to run them, you can run them. There's nothing wrong with it. If you don't want to run them, cool, you're like me, but that doesn't mean anything. Anyways, the reason why we're in this trigger lineup. You want draws to help replenish your hand for the PBD sacking. You want PBO sacking. Fronts, that's self-explanatory. Crits, well, both of your Vanguards will already, if you're on grade 3, will already have an extra crit on them. You don't really need to make the Vanguard more threatening. I mean, you could make the Blaster Dark more threatening, but you're getting like 4 attacks a turn. I don't think you need to shove a crit on something. That's my opinion anyways. Plus, I don't like running more than 4 crits. So, yep, that's my trigger lineup. Grade 1 time. 3 copies of Witcher Pandering, Brunner. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 5k base, continues rear guard. If you have a Vanguard Blaster in its card name, when this unit be retired for card's cost, it may be regarded as 2 rear guards. So, PBD requires 3 sacks. This at least fills up 2 of them. And as for PBO, it requires 2 sacks. Here's what you do. You boost this, you boost a unit with this unit, and then you swing with PBO, you murder this thing, and then you just call Blaster Dark over the unit that swung. Boom. You just only attacked with 1 column, and you still got 3 more attacks left. Brunner, or technically 2 after the PBO who's currently attacking. Brunner is amazing. You run out of 3 of. I don't think you need it at a 4 just because I see it consistently at 3. Like, there's never been a problem since I've started running this where I've ran it at 3 and I will always see it. Like, if you need to put it up to a 4th copy, go ahead, but I think 3 is fine. Because outside of being retired for skills, specifically for blasters, you can't really use it. Then we have 3 copies of Black Sage Charon, grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 7k base, auto when it's placed on rearguard circle. If you have a Vanguard Blaster in its card name, rest this unit, look at the top card of your deck, you may call it to rearguard circle if it's a unit, and at the end of the turn, kill it. And if you put it at the top of the deck if it's not called. So first off, you don't have to call it. Granted, if it's not a unit, it's going back at the top regardless, but you don't have to call it regardless if you don't want to, which means you can just keep it at the top and not show your opponent, which means you could sack a trigger from it. You could just put a PBO on top, because I know my friend first played PBO. He lost all 4 of his PBOs so quickly. Granted, only 1 of them went to hand, but 2 of them went to damage. 1 of them was seen by this, and for some reason he chose to call it. I don't remember why. I think he just needed rear guards to sack for PBD. And then the last one thankfully showed up in his drive check, but he lost so many of them so quickly, and I felt bad for him. So, Charon is nice. It's an amazing card. Only downside is she's a 7k base, but it works as a 7k base because most of the time you're using her for sack fodder. 3 of, free deck stack, free call, no problems with her. 3 of Armor Piercing Knight Mugain. Grade 1, boost, 5k shield, 8k base. Auto was placed on rearguard circle from hand. If you have a Vanguard Blaster in its card name, discard a card from your hand, look at the top 2, to up to 2 units cards from among them, call into rearguard circle's rest, and discard the rest. So, kind of like Charon, except she involves you discarding, and anything that isn't called goes to drop instead of back to top deck. Good news is, she literally fetches you the rest of PBD's cost. Because remember, PBD requires you sacking 3 units. This is 1, and then it gives you 2 more. So on the time span that you're on PBD, this effectively nets you 3 of them. So needless to say, this is pretty good, and we run it 3 copies. No arguments, good. Moving on. Then we have our PG and Aegismare Dragon. Grade 1 boost, 0 shield, 6k base. Literally looks like a zebra with wings. Continue Sentinel, you have 4 suns in your deck. Auto, when it's placed on guard circle, choose one of your units, and it cannot be hit on the battle. And if your hand has 2 or more cards, choose a card from your hand, discard it. Standard PG, nothing special about it. If you don't know what that means, it basically means if this and only 1 other card's in your hand, when you would use this PG, you do not have to discard for it. You can just play it down, which is really nice because you can play super aggressively in the game, and then late game comes around and your opponent's like attacking you a lot for big numbers, and you got to throw down a PG, but you only got 1 hand card, and that being the PG. Normal PGs, that would get you screwed over because you would just lose that turn. But this PG, you can throw it down and you'll be fine. Honestly, let me rephrase that. This is my favorite PG in terms of how it looks. The only reason why I hate it is because they call it a dragon, but we can all blatantly see that's a fucking zebra. Don't even with me. That is a zebra and you know it. I want to see a full art of this thing. And I want someone to explain to me in detail how the fuck this counts as a dragon. Because you can't just slap wings on something and it counts as a dragon. Because if so, then every bird we see is legally classified as a dragon. 4 of this thing, I don't know why I'm on this topic. And then our last grade 1 is the grade 1 of the ride deck and the grade 1 of the ride line, which is Blaster Javelin. Only 1 copy, and that goes in the ride deck, none in the main deck because there's no reason around in the main deck. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. Items rolled upon by Blaster Dark, reveal the top card of your deck. You may call it to rearguard circle as rest if it's unit, and discard if it's not. Cool! So we have another version of this, except it does it for free. You get a free call as rest. Technically, it does the same thing as Charon, even though Charon rests herself and calls the unit as stand. But, it gives you sack fire for Blaster Dark, which is really nice. And continues rear guard during your turn. If you have Vanguard Blaster's card name, it gets +2. Yeah, you don't need to run in the main deck, especially because you can get it out of soul with PBD, so it's not really necessary. One of them in the ride deck. I like his art, though. He's amazing. If you're wondering why we don't run the grade 1 that is Soul Blast 2 when it's killed by Vanguard's ability to nuke an opponent's rear guard, well, I don't like running that card solely because, like, on the often occasions that I use it once, and retiring once isn't really that helpful, especially because I always have ideal sack fodder, mainly because this thing ends up on the board way too much, to the point where if I ran her, she would be a vanilla 95% of the games that I play this deck with. So, not even 95, 99, considering how close I always win or how close I always lose. So, yeah, Blaster Javelin, one of ride deck. On to grade 2s. 3 copies of Knight of Severe Punishment. Geid. Grade 2 intercept 5k shield, 10k base. Auto-owns retire from rearguard circle for the cost of your card. Look at top 3, choose up to 1 card, blast one's card name from Mundlam, reveal it, put it to your hand, and put the rest on bottom. Yeah, other sack fodder. Yeah, so when it comes to Soul Blast 2 to retire something, or look at top 3 for possible Persona Ride and or PBO, yeah, this one takes the cake. God is nice, free skill, all that requires that you just retire from cost. Now, if you had a card that just said, you pay a cost, and then you kill a rear guard on your opponent's field and your field after you pay the cost, that wouldn't go off for this effect because this effect wasn't retired for the cost, it was retired by the ability. But if it's something like PBO who says on swing, retire 2 rear guards, then its effect goes off. So, really nice free search. I like this card a lot. 3 of. No, I was about to say 4 of. 3 of Skull Witch Nemain. I don't like her for several reasons, but we will acquire those later. Grade 2 intercept, 5k shield, 5k base. Continues rear guard during turn if you have Vanguard Blast one's card name, gets plus 5k power. Cool, 10k base, that's actually really nice. And then autos placed on rear guard circle. If your Vanguard's clan is only Shadow Paladin, counterblast 1, put a hand card to soul, draw 2. I don't know why, I feel like Bushiroad future-proofed this. Because this Vanguard's clan is only Shadow Paladin. Now, my only question is, does this apply to other Keter decks that isn't MLB? Because if I'm wrong, then if it's what I think it is, then that means you can only use it in PBD when you're just a deck that has Blaster Dark / any of the cards that are remotely related to Shadow Paladin in Keter. But if I'm wrong, then that means you can run this in all Keter decks and abuse the shit out of it. Which, 50-50. But I'm assuming it's the first one, considering how they've already cleared up rulings and how cards rules work. But if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. But I'm 95% sure you can only use this in PvD decks. But hell, I might be wrong. Point is, or maybe it is just a future-proof MLB, but I don't know. Either way, the draw 2 is better than the old one, because if I remember the old one correctly, it was a 3k base, counterblast 2, draw 2, which was nice. It was amazing. It was a good card. But well, yeah, that's why everyone ran, except when you would ride it on Van, you would essentially be getting fucked in the ass because you got 3k base Vanguard power and people would rush the shit out of it. Nemain, it's okay. I don't know what I don't like about it. Maybe it is just because it's a 10k base and after it's on place, it's effectively useless. Because, to be fair with you, I stopped running Maka just because I don't use her anymore, but spamming the field in PBO is kind of a lot more efficient than just, drawing 2, and the only reason I run this is because I like drawing 2. Ideally, if I ever get a card that says draw 2, I'm going to take that draw 2. So, 3 of Nemain, but more because, she specifies draw 2 instead of just, getting a free call. So, 3 of Nemain. Now, next card here is our last grade 2, and to be frank with you, our main grade 2, and one of the only grade 2s I think in the game that you run 4 of that are part of the ride deck, and that is Blaster Dark. Grade 2, intercept 5k shield, 10k base. Auto when it's placed on Vanguard or Rear Guard. Counterblast 1, retire another Rear Guard, choose one of your opponent's Rear Guards, retire it, and this unit gets a draft for the turn. So, really nice ability, especially if that's the turn you sack your over trigger, because that means this unit will have Twin Drive on your Rear Guard, and if you combine it with having another grade 3 on your Rear Guard, you got sextuple drive, and that's amazing. Especially when you ride it from ride deck that turn. As long as you don't see the one card in this deck that isn't a unit, you are guaranteed to call for Blaster Javelin and then have target for Blaster Dark. The only downside is you would lose a counterblast and a rear guard, but the chances of that happening are kind of slim. I say that, and yet every time my friend has used PBD, the 3 out of 5 times that he has not been able to pull off Blaster Dark's grade 2 skill, and I kind of feel bad for the guy, but it's fine. And then continues rear guard during turn. If a rear guard's retired, this turn gets plus 5. Cool. Works while you're on PBD, works while you're on PBO. Simple 5k, and that's really appreciated. And not to mention the other skill, allows you to fuck with the opponent's board. And because PBO doesn't use Counterblast, you can be as Counterblast heavy as you want, Blaster Dark. And considering the rest of the deck outside of the main doesn't use Counterblast, do what you want, Blaster Dark. 3 of in the main deck because, he's important with PBO, and 1 in the ride deck because you want to be able to, get some extra drives out of it. On to grade 3s. 4 copies of Phantom Blaster Overlord. Not in the main deck. Not in the ride deck. Only 4 copies in the main deck. No 3-1. It's just straight up 4 in the main deck. Grade 3, turns out Persona Ride, 13k base. Continuous Vanguard. If your soul has Phantom Blaster Dragon, its card name, it gets +1 crit. So if your soul has a Phantom Blaster Dragon, not a card with that in its card name, it has to be a Phantom Blaster Dragon, it gets +1 crit. And Auto Van, when it attacks anything, retire 2 of your rear guards, or just retire 1 of Brunner, who literally counts as 2, which is amazing. And call from your soul or drop Blaster Dark to rear, and if your opponent's Vanguards are grade 3 or greater, this and that unit get +10 for the turn. So if you have PBO and soul 23 double critical face. Now, a lot of people might start saying this to me: Ezel, why are you not running PBO in the ride deck? Here is why. 1. It's partially because of preference. Like, if I have a card with an evolution in it, I'm more likely going to run it in the main deck just so I could make a joke that the anime would, do a funny ride chant, and go say cross ride so-and-so. I would most likely do it just for that joke, and that is partially the reason why I'm doing that here. But the other reason is this. This requires you to have Phantom Blaster Dragon and Soul. And yeah, that's easy to get if you have Nemain. Downside is, that requires you draw Nemain, and you draw Phantom Blaster Dragon before you attack with PBO. And yeah, because it activates while your opponent's not a grade 3, that's an extra critical. But once more, if you don't have either of the two, or if you have one but not the other, you can't use it and you won't get the extra crit. You guys see what I'm saying here? Like, it would be a waste, especially because on swing, you're only sacking 2 rear guards and getting a Blaster Dark that most likely won't get +10. And while PBD would be better, because it's only 1 counterblast, you most likely have the 3 rear guards to sack, and it guaranteedly gets that crit, and you can fuck with the opponent's board and get that 10k. Like, that's why I run PBD in my ride deck. If you think PBO in your ride deck is better because maybe you're luckier with Nemain or PBD, and both of them ended up in your hand, then go ahead. I'm not saying you can't do that, but I prefer PBD on my ride line just because, like, it's a lot better to pull off consistently for myself, and it's partially because of the anime joke. So, like, that's my thing. It's nothing against you if you want to run it that way. If you want to run it my way, good on you. It's up to you. There's no wrong way to run it. There's no right way to run it. We can go competitive wise on that statement, but you know what? I'm not a competitive player, so whatever you guys say about it doesn't affect me. Cool. Anyways, 4 of Overlord. And then on to our last grade 3 and our last normal unit, which is, speak of the devil, PBD, or Phantom Blaster Dragon. We run 2 in the main deck, 1 in the ride deck, just like the evolutions from the other sets. You do want some copies just for the Persona Ride's sake, but then after that, you kind of only want them in the ride deck. Grade 3 turns out Persona Ride, 13k base. Auto was placed off Vanguard Circle, choose a card, Blaster, and its card name from your soul. You may call it to rear guard. Cool, you get Blaster Dark. Now you can just sack it later and then call it back with PBO. Or you can get Blaster Javelin just to get +2. Or guess what? Because this skill requires you to sack 3 rear guards, this gives you 1 of them. Act Vanguard, once per turn. Counterblast 1, sack 3 rear guards. Choose up to 2 of your opponent's units, rear guards, sorry. Retire them. This unit gets +10 and a crit for the turn. So, really nice. You don't have to kill 2, but you can kill 2 if you want, or you can kill 1. And this thing can get +10k and a crit, which is nice. So, 23, double crit, almost guaranteed as long as you have a counterblast and 3 rear guards. The time that this deck will not have 3 rear guards will only be a time if you have a handful of triggers and PGs, and if you are not a ballsy motherfucker that wants to call those. But in the words of a wise/stupid man, you cannot win games if all you're going to do is play on the defense. There are times that will dispute that fact that I will agree on, but for right now, we are playing Vanguard, and there is no fact that can dispute that. So, yeah, call 3 PGs. I promise you it has worked out. I'm not even joking with you. One time I genuinely did just call 3 PGs to use this, and it was so worth it. But, yeah, if you don't want to run in your ride line and you just want to run it for a main skill, then go ahead. Good news is you can keep these ratios. I think you don't have to change the main to a 4 because she's that important if you make PBO your ride line card. But still, that's how I think it should be. 3 of PBD, 1 of them being in the ride deck just because, guaranteed crit, and not to mention that, or more guaranteed off. Out of percentage-wise, its crit is more guaranteed, and it can fuck with the opponent's board. So, 2 of in the main deck, 1 of in the ride deck. And then our last card in the deck is Blessing of the Hell Dragon, Grade 3 Blitz Order. Choose one of your Vanguards, Blaster on its card name. Oh, look at that, it works on all of these. I mean, granted, it would only work on these 2 because they're actually Grade 3, but still, it gets +15 for the battle. And then, choose one of your rear guards, you may retire it. If you do, it gets +15 again. So, +30 if you sack a rear guard to the Vanguard, basically. So 43, 43. I cannot tell you how many times that ability has saved me. So many times. Hey, guess what? It says Blaster, which means you can abuse this in MLB, but that's for a story for a different deck profile. Point is, like, PBO is just good. Like, they have honestly one of the best blitz orders in the game, in my opinion. I think they have the best blitz order in the game. The only one I would dispute that fact with is, like, the Shadow Army blitz order, but I don't use it because it costs a counterblast, and my Shadow Army deck is always counterblast heavy. So, yeah, not gonna go to that far. But I like Blessing of the Hell Dragon. It's really nice, 2 of. And that's it for the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. Honestly, PBO and PBD is kind of fun. Like, outside of my friend who will tell you very much otherwise because of what happened during that game that shall not be mentioned, it's fun. You get extra crits. You have 2 Vanguards and get you extra crits. You got some free calls. You got or free calls in terms of not costing Counterblast or Soul Blast or discards. You have ways to fuck with the opponent's board, and if you pulled the over trigger, you're probably getting at least quad drive that turn. And you can fuck with your opponent's board during the battle phase, so that's a plus. So all around, this deck's pretty fun. I like it. I think it's good. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, donate to Patreon, join Discord, follow Twitch, and I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to stand up your Vanguards.